it's always been like a lot of fun for me to basically take footage, take it apart, put it back together. It's very enriching.
Hello, and welcome to the Arts of Language podcast with Andrew Pudewa, founder of the Institute for Excellence in Writing, or as many like to say, IEW. My name is Julie Walker, and I'm honored to serve Andrew and IEW as the Chief Marketing Officer. Our goal is to equip teachers and teaching parents with methods and materials which will aid them in training their students to become confident and competent communicators and thinkers. Well, listener, we haven't had one of these episodes for a while. This is a when Andrew's away. And the reason we haven't had one for a while is Andrew hasn't been traveling quite as much, especially during 2020. But here we are, and he is under the weather, and so we're running out of episodes. So I did what I normally do on episodes like this, and I say, who can I have a conversation with? And today I decided to bring Mikael Walker into the studio. Welcome, Mikael.
Hello.
So, Mikael, please tell us what you do here at IEW.
Well, if you remember all the way back to episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 100 of this podcast, I was doing the podcast editing.
Right.
For this podcast up
That's
to
right.
episode 100. So, along with that, I have done data entry. I have done IT, I have done audio video, and I keep doing audio video because for some reason you guys still like me doing that.
And you apparently like doing it as well.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so we jokingly say in the studio when we're getting ready to shoot yet another episode of our Structure and Style for Students and various other video courses that we are working on, we call Mikael our man behind the curtain because you have lots of cool things going on in your room.
Yes, I am literally the man behind the curtain because in the studio there are a lot of curtains.
Yes.
Lots of pipe and drapes for
Yes.
the background. But if you ever see the back corner of the audience shot, I am have all my equipment behind all that stuff.
All that stuff is all your equipment.
Running the show, calling shots, and then telling cameramen to move certain angles and such. And yeah, that's a lot of fun.
So your official title, and if you were to go to the end of episode 24 for each of the subsequent Structure and Style for Students courses, your name comes up in the credits. And what's your credit name?
Floor director, and I'm part of the video editor team.
Yes. Lots of hours and hours standing at a stand-up desk because that's how you roll. You love your stand-up desk. You don't even have an option of a chair at your desk to ever sit down.
No.
If there's a chair in your office, it's for someone else to sit down if they want to have a conversation with you and not stand. I jokingly like to say, the man with the most monitors wins. And you have how many monitors at your workstation?
Well, if you're counting the iMac, I have 5 monitors.
5 monitors. I actually,
and they all serve a purpose.
Yes. And I love how you've named your equipment. So you have some pieces of equipment that are so important that you've given them names.
Yes. The studio rack that has all the microphone, receivers, all the devices we use to record the footage, all the routing systems, that rack is called Merlin. Because he's full of equipment from a company called Blackmagic.
Okay. Because we use Blackmagic cameras in our studios.
Right.
4 of them. Yeah.
Right. My mixer is called Mike because he receives all the microphone inputs and such and routes them to all parts of the recording. And then I have a very, very large machine in
that has its own room now.
It has its own room. It has its own AC unit because it gets very, very hot because it is our pizza oven.
We make pizza at IEW? I had no idea.
Well, we make metaphorical pizza.
Okay, got it.
The machine is called Syracusa after John Syracusa. It has also a pizza oven in New York it's a very large machine, very hot. It has a Mac Pro in it with a whole bunch of hard drives. It's a lot of fun, really fast, really loud, and it's it's got its own room.
Yes, and you have several computers that hook into that, and these are the other video editors on your team that help us do what we do here at IEW, which is produce video content.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I really love about how we teach writing here at IEW is we don't just tell you, we don't give you a grammar book, we don't give you a workbook. At least initially, we have video courses so you can actually watch Andrew teach a group of students, teach a group of teachers of how to teach writing. So it's not just what to do, but how to do it. So I love how we teach writing, and I love that you are a part of it. I also, of course, love that you're a part of it because, listener, in case you haven't figured it out, Michael is actually my son. And so, Michael, I'm going to ask you some mom questions. Okay, so here we go.
Okay.
So this is about your own education, and some of you may know that I actually taught school for a couple years, fresh out of college. I taught middle school for a year and didn't like it because I was so young and the kids were intimidating to me. But then I moved into teaching the primary grades and I just loved it. But when our boys came along, we decided to homeschool. And Michael, of course, you are the youngest of 3 brothers. And so can you kind of just summarize advantages, disadvantages to being homeschooled, worst memories, best memories, and we can always edit this out.
Advantages. You're so tired with what you're having to do with my oldest brother and my middle brother, and that's like it's more or less laissez-faire with the youngest. Like, just do your math over there.
Oh.
But sometimes when the frustration has peaked to a certain extent and it's just one-on-one time with Michael and Mom, then heads start to butt. And no matter how much you tell me, this is math, you know how to math.
He does know how to math.
Right. But when the pressure is on and I have, a whole bunch of things going on, it's very hard to focus. And this is like, I grew up with ADHD. Severe ADHD, to the extent like you heard that I had a stand-up desk. There's reasons I have a stand-up desk. There's reasons I have monitors. There's reasons my entire workstation, I have bent my entire environment to my will in order to focus on my work. And because I get fidgety, I fidget, I get distracted, I zone out, my mind starts turning, and then pretty much if I don't focus on what I need to, I am, my mind will eat itself. So when I'm at home, when I was homeschooling, I remember basically my mind eating itself because I was so bored by this work. That's numbers. I know how to number, so I don't know why I keep having to do these number drills over and over and over again. So, yeah, I remember the multiplication tables. I'm not sure if anyone remembers multiplication tables who's of the Zoomer generation, but yeah, I remember drilling those into my head.
So when did you discover that video editing was something that you enjoyed doing?
I would say in high school, my dad got me a little CyberShot camera that shot, pictures and video. It was like an itty bitty little 1.8 megapixel camera. Okay. And I figured out how to import the footage from the camera onto my computer and throw it into Windows Movie Maker. And then I would assemble little videos that I would make. And like my brother would have concerts at he was a musician, so I would record his concerts and stitch things together and then like make little music videos for him and such that have never seen the light of day.
No. And we're all waiting to hear what your YouTube channel is, but you don't have one.
No. So, and then after a while of, making these fun videos and stuff and, like only associating like this is a hobby. You can't actually get a job with this. I mean, I got a cheap little CyberShot camera and then, and Windows Movie Maker. And then eventually like, I now have an iPhone and I could shoot videos and can make stuff with this with, Premiere Pro. And like, a couple of like side gigs here, like I'm actually not bad at this. And so while I was working in retail and such on the side, I was like, for fun, I would make little videos. My dad actually had asked me, "Hey, can you actually remaster our wedding video?"
It's true.
So,
You did remaster our wedding video.
And then
shot in 1984.
Yep. So, and it still looks like it was shot in 1984, except
does.
less artifacting. So, but then Cameron came along. My boss, Cameron Covey, he came along and said, "Hey, I need a video assistant. Would you like to interview for this position?" And the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Right. But it's always been like a lot of fun for me to basically take footage, take it apart, put it back together, and to make a sort of cohesive narrative from start to finish. It's very enriching.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know, because I'm your mom, that you were taught IEW. What's your earliest memory of Andrew Pudewa?
I remember going to Biola and sitting in one of the multi-purpose rooms and him standing in front of a classroom full of probably, I'd say, 30, 40 kids, and basically having us do the ant and the grasshopper.
Ah.
And so we were writing, doing the keyword outline, taking it apart, and then basically having to rewrite using the keywords outlines of how to of the ant and the grasshopper. So this was, I don't know, was it 97?
1999.
1999.
Yes, it's one of the first years that I started working with Andrew when I was at Biola. And yeah, of course, whatever I was doing while working at Biola, I brought my kids along, and you sat in many classes with Andrew Pudewa. Some of them might have been a little bit above your grade level, but he seemed to really like you then, and I know that he really likes you now and really appreciates your talents. What kind of things would you say inform your current occupation with the structure and style approach? And I know that you had written a blog post about this many years ago, and we should link to that in the show notes, how structure and style informs your work today.
Let's say you start out with, we start out with these parts. We start out with all the, in video editing, I receive a whole bunch of footage. So what I need to do is basically piece together, and, line it all up, give it a sort of structure. Like this is from beginning to end. This is how it starts. Chop right there. This is how it ends. Chop right there. And now I have, this block edit. Now you could play back the block edit with all the, various parts removed after I, go play through like, oh, Julie's walking on set. I'm going to chop that off.
He calls me Julie when we're at work. Yeah. He doesn't call me Mom.
My mom is walking on set. I'm going to have to chop that off. He is staring off into the abyss. I have to remove this section. Here's a part where he has a conversation with, the director while there's nothing on screen. I'm going to chop that off. So I basically do a block edit initially. That is very structured in how that is done. If I was to release that as a product, it's like, here, this is all you got. I don't think we're going to sell many copies.
It wouldn't be as fancy.
No, it wouldn't look as lovely. It'd be very structured. Start to finish, you get one camera angle. And so in order to include style, there are a whole repertoire of tricks that I have up my sleeve on how to do camera angles. I like to sort of cropping tricks. There are some shots that there is no quote unquote special effects or anything, but there are a lot of practical effects. Some student shots are cropped in such a way where if a kid is flailing his arms in the air,
yes, that happens occasionally,
then you will not see that because I have superimposed a shot of him being a normal, well-behaved student in that shot.
So parents and teachers, if you're watching our Structure and Style for Students video courses and you just are amazed at how Andrew has such a well-ordered group of students, perhaps some of that wizardry is not Andrew, though I'm sure a lot of it is, but some of that could be attributed to the man behind the curtain and his wizardry and his stylistic approach to structure and style.
Yes, but there's like, that's the normal like run of the mill, like, okay, how do I make this look like a good shot versus, oh, here's a little fun thing I could do. Here's a sand dune. You want to hear what the Dune boons sound like?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of the audio that goes with that. So.
That was really fun, and actually that brings me to a couple of the videos you actually do some honest to goodness special effects where Andrew is talking about the sands. This is in the Structure and Style for Students, Year 1, Level A. And Andrew is talking about the Gobi Desert and the sand dunes there, and they actually make a sound. Mm-hmm. And you got a video and audio of that and put that into the video. So it kind of here suddenly we're listening to these sands, and that was really fun to watch. Then I most recently, because we have recently launched the Structure and Style for Students Year 2 Level B, Andrew's having a conversation with the class about, let's talk about Oklahoma. What's in Oklahoma? Because that's actually where we are. And one of the kids mentions the blue whale. And Andrew's like, the blue whale? What's the blue whale?
And you need to see a picture of the blue whale in order to see the ridiculousness of the blue whale.
So if you've never driven through Tulsa and you've never done a Route 66 tour, you would probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But all of our students who watch 2B know what the blue whale looks like because and it totally cracked me up that, Michael didn't even tell us he was going to do that, but suddenly there's a blue whale on the whiteboard, and it's just hilarious. I just love the little things that you insert. Not a lot of it, just an appropriate amount. So, Michael, what do you do for fun? What do you do in your spare time?
Well, nowadays I disc golf. I listen to podcasts. I walk my dog. I used to, a couple of years ago, record a podcast with a couple of my coworkers who have since moved on to bigger and better things.
Yes, and that podcast
is called The Department of Wizardry. It is amateur therapy for professional nerds.
and just, maybe this is just mom speak right here, but I really I'm sorry that there's only 10 episodes.
There's 12.
There's 12 episodes. Oh my goodness, I've missed 2, but they're really enjoyable to listen to, and it's just fun to hear my baby all grown up having his own podcast and actually sounding smarter. Well, no, he is very smart, so it's fun. We'll put a link to the show notes to the Department of Wizardry. And of course, I know for certain that one of the things that you enjoy doing is taking care of your wife.
Yes.
And your wife also works for us here in our customer service department and helps take care of our resellers. So someday we'll have her on the podcast too. But yes, all of my boys, they're all grown up when they choose good wives, and they've all chosen good wives. And
I've chosen the best.
Yes, they have a lot of fun together. So Michael, one of the things that we like to do in our When Andrew's Away podcast is give our listeners a chance to win one of your favorite products that we sell here at IEW. So because we mentioned Structure and Style for Students Year 1 Level A, what do you think? Should we give that one away?
Absolutely. It is probably the most, SSS, Structure and Style for Students is probably the most important thing I've ever worked on. It is the best thing I've ever made and the thing I'm most proud of. So yes, by all means.
So we will put a link in the show notes, and we will put in the show notes when this drawing ends. So just go ahead, sign up for the drawing, and we'll randomly pick a winner. And hopefully one of you can enjoy Michael's stylistic techniques as he puts in the sand dunes. But of course, we've sold thousands and thousands of these already. Does that blow your mind sometimes to think that so many people have viewed your work?
Yeah, I get updates once a week. Like, are you sure you're not like moving a comma over? Or
it's very fun. It's very fun.
Mind-boggling. So,
well, it is my joy, absolute joy, both as the chief marketing officer, but also as your mother, to have you a part of this team. I know you are doing great things for us and for your family and for our family, and I'm just so proud to have you on our team. So, thank you, Michael.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, please subscribe to our podcast in iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify, or just visit us each week at iew.com/podcasts. Here you can also find show notes and relevant links from today's broadcast. One last thing, would you mind going to iTunes to rate and review our podcast? This really helps other smart, caring listeners like you find us. Thanks so much.